the reason there's a cap on charter schools is because of the Democratic leadership of de Blasio. And the reason he instituted that cap is because of the teachers' unions, right? So what do they care? Why do the teachers' unions not want charter schools?
Yeah, the union has great sway in Albany. They're the most powerful bloc in Albany and have been for a long time. And the Democrats control all the two houses of the legislature and the governor's office right now. It comes down to jobs. Enrollment in New York City is down. Charter schools have been growing for 20 years. As I say, there's over 130,000 students in charter schools right now. Meanwhile, public school enrollment has dipped for a number of reasons. One is simply fewer kids are being born, but also people are leaving the state. And so, they see this as coming after their jobs, and they've been able to convince the legislature that public education should serve its employees, not its children.
How is it that we can avoid union teachers in charter schools?
Because they are privately run, they don't bring in the existing union contract, at least not in New York State. That may differ in some other states across the country. All private sector employees have the right to try to unionize. We can't block that, but it really hasn't taken off in charter schools. And that's a good question to ask the unions, rather than trying to block the creation of new charter schools. If you think you have a product that's so good, why aren't you able to organize teachers in charter schools?
Mm-hmm. The unions can't stand the charter schools, even though, as you say, over 130,000 kids in New York City, but aren't there just over 1 million kids in school in New York City, right? So it's like, it's not that big a percentage. Why, you'd think the union would say it's something that we have to live with, and maybe it alleviates some of the burden that they're always telling us they're under.
Yeah, New York City is a very diverse city in terms of its school population. As you know, we have a lot of private and religious schools in New York City. There are over 110,000 kids in Jewish schools in New York City. That's another issue, but we also have the prep schools and whatnot. So a good percentage of kids are in the private schools. And then, the charters are drawing these other kids. But the enrollment in the traditional public school system is actually down to 800,000 students right now. A lot of that's happened in the last 2 years because of COVID. But they are losing population, and the state is losing population. And so that's a problem for our leaders in Albany and in City Hall to think about. Why are they driving parents away?
People weren't necessarily leaving just because of the poor performance of these schools. I mean, over the past 2 years, what's happened? COVID, right? They were closed. I mean, one of my dearest friends has had her children in the New York City public schools, and they could very well send their kids to private schools. They chose. They're Upper West Side liberals. They were like, we're committed to the public school system. We're going to send our kids to the public schools. And then their schools were closed from March of 2020, basically through the entire next school year. And I've told the story before, but they showed up these Joe Biden campaigning Upper West Side liberals finally showed up to a small open the schools rally, just saying like, please open the schools. And they were called white supremacists. So it's like, that's the experience of too many New York City parents who have decided, I'm out of here. I'm no longer ideologically committed to these schools, which weren't that great to begin with, and now aren't even open. And then if we finally show up, we're going to call our family white supremacists for wanting the doors to be open.
Right. There's another thing that happened that I wanted to bring up because it speaks to the issue you raised about kids being caught in lotteries right now. The other thing that Mayor Bloomberg did was to open up all kinds of schools, not just schools in low-income neighborhoods, but they opened and they gave choice to parents who wanted accelerated learning or they wanted their kids in gifted and talented programs. A lot of parents want to make sure that their children are surrounded by other children who can keep up with the learning that they required. And so there were many middle schools and a lot of high schools in New York City. There were entrance requirements. So when de Blasio came in, and this happened in places like the Upper West Side and also Park Slope, which has the same political culture that you described on the Upper West Side, people started saying, no, there's something wrong about this. It's racist. Now, my position is to deny a child of any race, white or Asian, Black or Hispanic, access to an accelerated program does nothing to help the kids in other neighborhoods who are trapped in poor schools. It simply It's unconscionable. But we've had a lot of that. There's been an attack in Manhattan and in Brooklyn, Park Slope, this neighborhood, that is very democratic, very liberal, against entrance requirements. And that's also applied to the high schools. And that's why in the last 2 years, a lot of parents unfortunately find themselves, their kids being thrown into a lottery. So random chance decides where they're going to end up. The problem with that is that there are many good schools in New York City, but there are also some real stinkers. And nobody wants their kids to, by chance, to be thrown into one of those schools. And unfortunately, that's been happening.
Are you tired of feeling like someone's always watching you on the internet? Maybe advertisers know a little bit too much about you, or you're concerned about the privacy of your identity. Why wouldn't you be? Using incognito mode will not solve the problem either. IPVanish VPN is here to protect your right to privacy and to help you stay anonymous online. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet without exposing your private details to third parties like hackers, your ISP, or advertisers. When you use IPVanish, all of your data is encrypted. This means your private details, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands. Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's like getting 9 months for free. IPVanish is super easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button and you are instantly protected. Take your privacy back today with a brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. Go to ipvanish.com/Megyn and use that promo code MEGYN to claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.